What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the podcast. Hope you're all doing well. This is the Cleveland Pulse podcast, and this is episode 44. Jeff and I are going to do a mock draft of the first 10 picks for the NFL draft that is coming in April, and we're going to do the Cleveland Browns pick at 26. Obviously, we want to do the first 10 and get your guys' sense for if you like this. If you do, maybe we'll do a full one-round mock draft. And then we also have ideas of doing a simulated live 7-round mock draft with PFF, which is another idea. But for now, we want to do, it's mock draft season. The Browns aren't really making any other moves. Jadeveon Clowney still hanging on a thread of what's going on there. May influence the draft picks that are made for the Browns in that first couple of rounds. So with that being said, Jeff, how are you doing, my guy?
I'm good, Justin. I'm excited for this episode, and I really like how you led that off. Jadeveon Clowney, that's a huge question mark out there right now for the Browns. That's something that has to be addressed. I said it last year around the time that we were in pursuit of him. I cannot stand that he's dragging his feet. I know that some other people in the Cleveland sports community feel likewise. He's sitting out there. You're not going to get a multi-year, big contract. It's just not going to happen. Sorry. You're going to have to play, 1 year and fulfill your roles and prove it again that you could be who you were drafted so many years ago. But
number one.
The first 10, number one, the first 10 picks here, we're bringing you the first 10 picks and obviously the Browns pick because, we love our Brownies. We got to talk about our Brownies, and they do have a first round pick, which is awesome for how well that, we played last year. We're going to be able to get a splash guy, a value guy, hopefully at that position. But the first 10 picks are littered with teams, in the AFC that we have to talk about. We have to be able to dissect and teams that are going to get primetime players. So we have to talk about it.
Absolutely. And, just to end on that Jadeveon Clowney note, huge kind of reference to just like how these drafts go with guys trying to live up to potentials and kind of how they play out. But a note for the Jadeveon Clowney thing is just that players from the Browns are trying to reach out and just telling him that, money's not going to be the thing with this team. And if you're cool with winning, that's what we're going to do. So hopefully we get some news on that. He signs with us, signs somewhere else. I would be fine with giving him incentives, but probably like a base salary of $6 to $7 million, no more than that with incentives. So, but with that being done, Jeff and I went through the first 10 picks. We each have different picks. Seemingly, we have not talked to each other about what our picks are. So this should be interesting. We'll go tick for tack, 1-1, 2-2, 3-3, and so on. We made it clear that you could make trades and do anything else that you wanted. So we'll see if any of that happens. But Jeff, I'll let you have the honors of going with the first pick in the NFL draft.
Okay,
Jeff's 1.0 mock draft. Here we go.
1.0. There might be some wrinkles in the top 10. I might get roasted for the top 10 because I am a controversial thinker. I would like to believe. And I'm going to start this off with the disclaimer. I debated very heavily to put Justin Fields as number one. It's very unrealistic. And if that would be a red flag to me, because I don't really want the head coach, I don't need the head coach being the GM, being the owner, being all that. Just be the head coach, Urban Meyer. I do not think that he's talking to people in the Jaguars camp and saying, I want Justin Fields this, I want Justin Fields that. He really doesn't even have, that great of a connection with them. But I think it's the simple number one overall pick for everybody that knows football is going to be Trevor Lawrence, number one to the Jaguars.
Yeah, you're going to get no fight from me there. Number one is, like you said, just clear cut. I think that people will try as we get closer and closer with every draft this happens, they try to make the Jaguars really seem to be making a push about Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, whatever name may pop up. And the only draft that really ever happened was the last time the Cleveland Browns had the number one pick with Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, all these names that we could throw out there. But with that being said, I also have the Jackson and Justin Harold's mock draft 1.0. Trevor Lawrence.
And Justin, you got to be careful here because I'm going to bring him an example of last year. And I don't think you could dispute this as a football player. Obviously, or as a football fan, obviously you're a big proponent of situations, how, quarterbacks, what situation they come into. I think we can agree pretty closely that Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert came into similar situations last year. Pretty average to below average teams. You know, they could have made their team average or relevant if they had great years, which, you know, both of them did, obviously, until Joe Burrow got hurt. And Justin Herbert had a great year. But Joe Burrow was the clear, flashy, best college quarterback, quote unquote. But you can't definitively say that Joe Burrow is going to have a better NFL career than Justin Herbert at this point in time. Obviously, 20 years down the road might be a different discussion, but I think that's the same thing here. Trevor Lawrence is obvious, but sometimes the obvious picks, they just don't work out.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. Absolutely. We've talked about the situation being a huge proponent of what happens. Don't expect Trevor Lawrence to make this Jacksonville Jaguars team,
right?
Playoff contender right away. A lot of these teams, and, we'll get to pick 3 because, interestingly enough, if you people haven't heard, San Francisco 49ers traded with the Miami Dolphins for the number 3 pick. So they are currently sitting at number 3. But before that, we have the New York Jets. This pick for me, now, I made it as a fan of Justin Fields. And no, Justin Fields is not being the number 2 pick for the New York Giants. It's actually Zach Wilson. As much as I hate to say it, I'm putting Zach Wilson here because he just falls under the Sam Darnold mold to me, in the sense that people are super high on this guy. They got him, coming up the ranks. He was probably number 3 or 4 before, I guess things happened with Justin Fields and everything. I don't know. Things really were crazy this past weekend with reports of his dedication to the game and everything. But I think New York, they need to take an offensive lineman. I'm not a Sam Darnold hater, even though Colin Cowherd has done everything in his power to make me one. But if I was the Jets, if I was Robert Saleh, I would take one more year, draft an offensive lineman, and ride out the Sam Darnold train. But I don't think that happens here. I think, sitting at number 2, the 49ers making that trade to 3, that they feel that quarterbacks are going to be flying off the board. I'm going to put Zach Wilson here, and I think that it's a mistake. But number 2, New York Jets, Zach Wilson, quarterback, BYU.
Okay, so maybe we should have talked about what our order was before, because I also have Zach Wilson at 2. I think the Jets are going for a quarterback here. I think it's pretty certain to say that they've moved on from Sam Darnold one way or the other. They might not have explicitly said it, but some of their actions and some of the murmurings from the front office, so to say, has indicated that Sam Darnold, they claim not to be their guy. I think this could be the Jets, if they're not careful here, this could be a clinical, I hate to say this, but it's the only word I could think of, is this could be a Cleveland Browns effect quarterback, situation for the Jets. We're out of that now, thankfully. But if you keep drafting quarterbacks over and over again, the Cleveland fans know that better than anybody. And that can happen to a franchise. If you miss on a couple of picks, I think Zach Wilson goes here. I don't even really think Sam Darnold is that unathletic. I think he actually is pretty versatile, but Zach Wilson, the hype with him, the hype on his pro day, and don't even get me started on pro day hype, because I like pro days as much as the next guy, but I hope he could drop a dime in a pro day. I really hope he can. That's not even me being a toxic viewer. I obviously could never do any of these things these kids could do, but I hope you could make a flashy throw at a pro day. But Zach Wilson, number 2, I agree.
I have never watched a quarterback's draft stock actually go up because of a pro day. I've only watched it go down, and I watched it happen with Teddy Bridgewater. It's the only guy that I can remember to date where he significantly hurt himself in a conversation to be a higher pick than what he was. But yeah, the Jets are gonna, to stick out as long as they did with Adam Gase. I'd hate to be Robert Saleh, he's coming into a situation where, first-time head coach, he probably wants to get his own guy. It'd be very interesting if he does take Zach Wilson here. Who the number 2 quarterback will be, or the number 2 pick, will be very interesting to me. But number 3, San Francisco 49ers. This is a pick where, the Jets might keep Sam Darnold for a year to let him, play out the year and kind of let whoever the quarterback is that they drafted to sit behind him for a little bit and learn a little bit about the offense before, throwing him into the fire. But with the 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo, they've made it clear they're going to hang on to him. They're going to let him, play however long he can play for a year. I mean, the man gets injured every year, seemingly, except for their Super Bowl run. But this is the perfect number 3 pick is by far, if you're a quarterback in this top 3 discussion, you're hoping that you go number 3, no matter what, you want to go number 3. This team is loaded, offense, defense. This is the perfect spot for a quarterback. So Jeff, I'm sure you have a quarterback going here.
I do. And it's crazy. We were talking beforehand that 3 straight quarterbacks, that's not very common. It's something that we have not seen a lot. I know that's some research you were doing.
Yep.
And this is an interesting topic because I'm not sure the reasoning behind San Francisco. I see the trade. I see all this developing. I still don't know why. There's 2 thought processes here. You draft someone similar to Garoppolo so he could sit there and learn underneath Garoppolo, or you're just upset with Garoppolo and you just want someone who's completely different than Garoppolo. So I think that's what came to my mind first. So your 2 options here are going to be, for me, Mac Jones, who is basically could not be, his pro comp might be Jimmy G. It really might be. Pocket passer, not a great arm, not like a top 5 arm in the league, but he's probably going to be smart with the football. That seems like Jimmy G right off rip to me. Or you take Justin Fields. I think they take Justin Fields here. I really do.
Yeah, and I also have Justin Fields going here. The homer in me loves this. Like, this is by far like the best case scenario on draft night for me. San Francisco
I'd be excited.
Gets Fields, gets the iron out whatever they think he might have issue wise. I guess, a lot of people think that he can't make reads and all this and whatever the negatives may be about Justin Fields compared to Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson. But for me, Kyle Shanahan drafted RG3. I don't know, people remember that all the way back in Washington. RG3's best season was with Kyle Shanahan. I don't believe the hype that Mac Jones is a first round quarterback. I dread the team that thinks that and inevitably moves on and does that move. But for me, it's Justin Fields here. There may be a discussion of Trey Lance, but who knows? So far, Jeff, you and I 3 for 3 on picks in our eyes. But
great minds think alike.
I'm for sure there is no way our number 4 picks are the same. I'm still gonna let you lead off because I think my number 4 is very interesting.
Okay, so 4, 5, and 6. These are my problem picks because I really have no idea what these front offices are going to do. I think Miami is probably your best team at 6 currently, pre-draft. I think everyone can agree with that.
Yep.
I wish I could tell you what I think the Bengals front office is going to do, but their free agency has led me to believe otherwise. And Atlanta, I'm not going to lie, I did not really watch them a whole lot. I don't watch that division in the NFC. I know that Matt Ryan was okay, but just not a lot around him. His wide receivers were getting old, and they dealt Austin Hooper to us, last season. So with that being said, I'm going to have the Atlanta Falcons picking just because I'm thinking logically. I have Kyle Pitts going at 4.
Very solid pick. Very offensive pick for the Falcons, who have Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley.
Julio's getting up there, though. Julio ain't going to be around for too much longer with his injury plague season last year. But Pitts and Calvin Ridley, it's a pretty good start.
Yeah, and I mean, who's going to argue with putting points up on the board with threats like that? So Matt Ryan can throw the ball all day long. We've seen it. He's done it.
Especially in that division. Domes down there. It's all throwing.
However, for me, this is my big-time pick, big-time position in the draft. The Falcons, like you said, I watched some of their games. They cannot defend the ball. Like, they cannot all their defensive players have left. Their best safety left. Their best coverage guy left. They need some defense. And so number 4 is a little high to be picking for them. So trade time. The New England Patriots.
Oh, no.
Trade for the number 4 pick. We talked about back-to-back-to-back quarterbacks not happening in a long time or maybe even ever. But I'm going to one-up it and go back-to-back-to-back-to-back picks are quarterbacks. The New England Patriots trade for the number 4 pick and pick Trey Lance, quarterback, North Dakota State. I watched the pro day of Mac Jones, and I watched them pan over to Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels watching this dude throw, and the disappointment that came in Bill Belichick's eyes was outrageous. And the reason why I say they do this is something that the Patriots, the Bill Belichick organization of the past decade, 2 decades, however long Tom Brady was there with Bill Belichick for, would never do. But this offseason, like you said for the Bengals, it leads you to believe that they're going to be aggressive. They don't want to be losing anymore. Cam's on a 1-year deal again. I think they're going to get their quarterback of the future. I think Trey Lance has all the physical tools, but he definitely needs to learn a Josh McDaniels playbook and sit a year behind someone who, Cam Newton, whether or not he's, great and a great example for him off the field, on the field, I think is a very good, learning curve for him in terms of watching Cam Newton. And that's my biggest, big kind of like surprise of this draft. New England trades for number 4 and the Falcons are out of the top 10. So
I give that to you because I do not. I just have mine stock. I didn't do any trades. You texted me about trades, but I think that is the trade to watch for is the New England Patriots moving up to grab a quarterback.
The number 4 pick should be interesting. Who knows? Atlanta could absolutely stay there and take the best player available, who would be Kyle Pitts. If that's the case, if they stay there, I'm going to agree with you. I think Kyle Pitts is that pick there, even though they should probably go somewhat defensive. But after that, it's pretty, maybe we have the same pick here for number 5. But we'll see. I think after this, it should be pretty interesting and different for the most part. So number 5, Cincinnati Bengals, like you were saying, some AFC teams that we need to talk about, the AFC North specifically with this one. The Cincinnati Bengals, listen, we talked about Joe Burrow earlier. I'm in the mindset that if they do anything that is taking a wide receiver, taking a tight end, if it's not an offensive lineman here, they want the worst for Joe Burrow. They want the absolute worst for Joe Burrow. They do not care about his longevity at all. This man needs his protection. They need to give him whatever it is. It is, they should have thrown a lot more money at offensive line in general. Here I have them taking Penny Sewell from Oregon, offensive tackle, the top rated offensive tackle. I hope for Joe Burrow's sake, this is the pick in my eyes. I hope it is.
Well, we're back on the same page because I also have Penny Sewell, but the disclaimer here is that you can't substantiate claims you see on Twitter. You can't even believe 50% of what you see on Twitter, but I don't know if it's Bengals fan base or just someone trying to stir up the pot. There's been talks that Joe Burrow is making a push for Jamar Chase to be drafted at that position.
I've seen that.
Nope. No good. Like I said with the head coach, I don't need if I'm the owner, I pay a GM, I pay the head coach, and then the quarterback gets paid. In that order. I don't pay the quarterback to work as a GM. I don't need him. I don't need him lobbying for who the organization should take. You need to take snaps and make throws. That's all you need to do. And then everyone else could do their own job. Hopefully you got to go with Sewell out of Oregon here. They just need help on that line so badly.
Absolutely. And I think that's the Browns being offensive tackle last year in last year's draft, went out, did it, changed what people thought of the Browns in terms of drafting and free agency and whatnot. So, and look how that turned out for us. So moving on to what you said was very interesting. Miami Dolphins, a AFC team that could have been in the playoffs was a win or two away from being in the playoffs.
Right on our heels.
Right on our heels. Was worried about them for the last couple of weeks of the season. This is interesting to me. I absolutely think because their defense is stellar, and Tua Tagovailoa, man, was he underwhelming. But to be fair, his best receiving target was Mike Gesicki.
He still won games. He found a way to win games, and his defense helped him a lot, but he was underwhelming. Agreed.
Him and Ryan Fitzpatrick, don't know that he should have started.
Fitzpatrick anymore.
I know, but I don't know that they should have ever taken Fitzpatrick out of that situation.
True.
But I'm going to say that them needing a wide receiver here, this is an interesting pick for me because people will probably flame me in the comments for whoever knows what reasons. I'm interested to hear what the reasons are. I'm going Devonta Smith, wide receiver, Alabama, before Jamar Chase. The thing I don't get with Jamar Chase, with everyone, is, LSU wide receivers. They're great. We could list off the number of LSU wide receivers. Justin Jefferson came into the league last year and was phenomenal. The man was great. But I think it happens way too often that people overhype the top 3 wide receivers. And so I think Devonta Smith, somehow, after winning the Heisman as a wide receiver, has been discredited so much so that he's not even the best wide receiver from his team coming out of college. It's what I've seen. And people tell me if I'm wrong. It's just ludicrous for some reason. To me, I think they take Devonta Smith. He's taller than Jamar Chase. And, man, you watch that Ohio State game, the dude just wherever he went on the field was wide open, getting himself open.
One-man wrecking crew.
The plays were even just like literally designed for him, not even Mac Jones going through progressions or anything. So I think the interesting pick here is Devonta Smith, Alabama, wide receiver to the Miami Dolphins.
I think this pick says more about college football than the NFL, which is very weird to say because when you think of Heisman, first of all, you think of a quarterback. Yep. And I think when you think of the Heisman, like I was talking about earlier, you just assume that that guy was the best player in college football. That guy was the best quarterback, which is not always going to transfer to the NFL. We've seen that. Trust me, we've seen that a couple of times, believe it or not. But being Browns fans, we've seen it. So I'm going to go Jamar Chase here at 6, but I'm going to recount to what we talked about with the quarterbacks because I am someone who thinks that NFL projectables are pretty high up in scouting reports, and I think Devonta Smith is at the bottom of that. Just for the NFL, which I respect him for that because I know that his story has always been counted out, and there's great stories like that all across professional sports. But I honestly think Jamar Chase goes first, and I think Jalen Waddle is before Devonta Smith, but I think Smith is going to be in the best system because Smith could fall to a guy where there's a chance, even if it's small, that he's not the number 1 guy. Imagine that kid being the number 2, not getting the best cornerback. He's going to ball.
There are quite a few teams within that top 10 that could happen with.
Yep, but I'll put Jamar Chase at 6, and I don't think Jamar Chase is the best wide receiver. I don't think he ends up being the best wide receiver from this class, just based off of the few principles that we've discussed so far.
Absolutely. I think that's a very valid point. But moving on to number 7, the Detroit Lions. So with these next few picks, I did my research. I tried to go and figure out what their needs were and everything. If you guys don't know, Detroit Lions no longer have Matthew Stafford, are on with Jared Goff, but they did lose their top wide receiver, Kenny Galladay. I'm going with Jamar Chase being chosen here. I think that the Lions think they get a steal here. We'll see how it pans out. We'll see how Jared Goff responds to being traded and all the slander that he's gotten, and see if he rebounds and helps Jamar Chase with a successful rookie season. But that's as far as I got with the Detroit Lions on what I had for research.
I think the Detroit Lions go very Detroit Lions here, which if that confuses people out there, they make a bad pick. Not a bad player, but it's a bad pick. I think this is a hot take. This is my biggest hot take on the board. I really do think that Micah Parsons is chosen here at 7 for the Detroit Lions. It kind of seems like a Jeff Okudah move. Like, do they really need a linebacker? They need everything, though, it seems like.
Yeah.
I guess they have DeAndre Swift, so the running back is okay. I think Jared Goff could still play at a relatively high level. I'm not sure about learning a new system. Might be a whole different story. But like their defense was okay. I think Micah Parsons goes here just because, I don't know, FOMO or something. They want the big name there. And I mean, I don't blame him. Micah Parsons, I think, is going to be a stud in the league, but I don't know what the Detroit Lions need here. So I gave him a splash player.
Fair enough. Like I said, Detroit, hard to figure out what they're going to do here. This is kind of where, 7 through 10 picks are going to get interesting. Picks are going to be somewhat hard to call. So number 8, the Carolina Panthers. This is where I just got fed up with the draft. And I was like, I can no longer slander my favorite player in this draft besides Justin Fields. I have number 8, Carolina Panthers, taking Kyle Pitts, tight end out of Florida. Okay. I think they get an absolute stud. Their wide receiving core takes a hit with Curtis Samuel going to the Washington football team. Teddy Bridgewater, there's an argument for them drafting a quarterback, but if they don't make that move to number 4, or, if some team jumps them ahead of time, I think they stick with Teddy Bridgewater for one more year. And they figured that, listen, if we suck this year and we're back in the top 5 area next year, we'll figure quarterback out then. And that's what they'll do. I don't think they'll let Matt Rule have 3 years there. I think the 3rd year is going to be his year to get a quarterback, which is hard to deal with because you're probably on your last year. A rookie quarterback's, situation-wise, not a great situation coming in to keep the head coach. So we'll see how that goes. But Kyle Pitts is going to be an absolute stud no matter where he goes. He reminds me so much of George Kittle that it's like ridiculous. So I got the Carolina Panthers probably getting the best value pick in the draft right now.
Yeah, I completely forgot that Pitts wasn't even off your board so far.
Yeah.
But I think I like your reasoning behind that solely because I think Bridgewater could get the job done. I didn't necessarily think about it like that. I actually have Trey Lance going in this position solely because of Bridgewater, just the connection that maybe they could make, those two. I'm not really sure if that's the right move. I think that for their future, it's probably a good move. Teddy Bridgewater is not going to be a type of guy to give you longevity. I'm not sold on Trey Lance. I'm really not. I think he goes top 10 for sure. I think there is 4 quarterbacks drafted within this top 4. And I'm not sold. I'm not sold on North Dakota State quarterbacks having one good year. Roast me in the comments, but I'm just not sold on it. But I think he goes
Carson
at 8.
Wentz. So,
basically.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot for Carolina, and I think it's a very good, positional pick for you there. Number 9, the Denver Broncos, probably one of the most lost organizations when it comes to just anything after Peyton Manning. So I don't know what another team that's rumored to maybe go up and get a quarterback because they're done with Drew Lock, but I have no idea what they're going to do here. For me, I looked up what their needs were. Offensively, they're good. They've got a lot of receiving weapons. Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Font. They've got a lot of guys there offensively. They need to figure out what's going to go on at quarterback. So for me, I just went best defensive player available. Patrick Surtain, the 2nd quarterback, Alabama. It's really hard to justify or, make an argument for not taking the best defensive player available other than there's not a quarterback. I'm not taking Mac Jones over Drew Lock right now or being like Drew Lock and Mac Jones. There's Mac Jones is way up here and Drew Lock's all the way down here. I really don't see Mac Jones that way. So that's going to be my pick for number 9, Denver Broncos.
I'm making it maybe an unprecedented first 10 picks, but I'm putting Mac Jones at 9. I'm saying 50% of the top 10 are quarterbacks gone.
Crazy.
I don't know. I just have some weird vibes about it. I'm not a Drew Lock fan. I'll just put that out there right now. I do not think Drew Lock can get the job done. He's like a little bit better Johnny Manziel. That might be rude, but he reminds me of Johnny Manziel. I don't know why. just the way he kind of acts around the field and how he plays. But I think he's good, but I don't think that's what they're looking for in Denver. Another team like the Jets could be in this quarterback purgatory for, they don't think it's too bad. And then you look up in 8, 9 years and you haven't had a quarterback play, 20 straight games for you, which we know and know very well. So I think they go with Mac Jones there.
I could absolutely see Elway doing something dumb there. And so that would be 5. You got 5 quarterbacks going in the top 10. I had 4 right off the bat. We'll see what happens. But number 10, the Dallas Cowboys. See, this is where I break Jeff's heart, and I finally take his guy off the board, Micah Parsons, linebacker, Penn State. Their defense is just awful.
It's bad.
And honestly, taking this potentially, I said Patrick Surtain is the best defensive player available. He's the one with the least amount of questions. And also the best resume besides Micah Parsons, who sat out last year. And there have been questions about his character and such, but Dallas doesn't care about that kind of stuff. They really don't. And so
they love it.
They will easily take Micah Parsons at number 10 and call it a day.
Okay. So I'm going to go with Patrick Surtain here at number 10 for Jerry's World. But at the same time, Jerry's World, he might just go stupid again. If he took Waddle, if they took Waddle at 10, I honestly would not be surprised.
Would not surprise me.
And honestly would not surprise me if they took an offensive guy at 10, even if whoever it was, they took CeeDee Lamb last year. Their offense, we know if it clicks, we know if it's healthy. Dak, Zeke, you got Amari Cooper over there, you got CeeDee Lamb. I mean, I guess they're missing a tight end.
If Kyle Pitts fell to number 10,
I don't think they could say no if Kyle Pitts was there at 10, but I think you got to go Surtain here. Browns fans saw us play them this year. Their defense that's the worst defense we played all year. Yeah. And we played ourselves sometimes. Our defense played ourselves, and the Dallas defense was worse, I think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that is the top 10. Now we move on to the most interesting pick of the draft for Cleveland fans. Pick number 26, the Cleveland Browns. Jeff, I'm going to let you go first with this one.
You're killing me. Let's talk about it. All right, I'll go first, but let's try to deduce it. Do you want to do like who we want or who we think, or like a combination of both?
I went with who we think.
Okay, who we think. Let's try to get in Andrew Berry's head right here. Okay,
so for me, as of right now, as we're sitting, Jadeveon Clowney is not signed with the team.
True. Got to put that out there.
However, we do have guys that did not play last year that at the end, currently outside of my mind. McKinley, Tack McKinley. You're thinking, DN, you need someone to run with Miles. However, you also don't know about Greedy Williams. You can't have too many cornerbacks. Troy Hill obviously coming in, probably going to start, depending on what Greedy's situation is, could take the best cornerback, best player available at that point. And then who knows? This is my other thing with my pick is that linebacker, I would love to get a linebacker here. I'll tell you who my pick is not. It's not Jeremiah Owusu from Notre Dame. I don't think he survives to this point, unfortunately.
Let's do that. I'm gonna talk about who I don't think we're going to take right away too, but you don't think we're taking him from Notre Dame?
Really? I don't think he's available.
He's going to be gone. Okay. You're saying he's going to be gone. Okay. Yep. I want to put this out here. Shout out our man, Derek, shout out DF Sports, but he gave us some information that the analytics department is, very correlated with the Columbus Crew and Haslam owns the Columbus Crew. Haslam owns the Browns. And he made it seem like linebacker just wasn't going to be – the analytics don't say linebacker there. I would agree, but, man, this Zaven Collins dude, I see him everywhere. I do not think we're going to draft a linebacker. I could be dead wrong. I don't think we're going to draft a linebacker of any sort. Like I said, I could be wrong. I think we need a linebacker, Absolutely. And I think we need an edge. I think the Clowney situation's off the table. And I'm going to tell you another person who I do not want or do not hope that we draft, which this might be a hot take, but I really do not want Jalen Phillips. I really don't. I didn't know a whole lot about him, started doing research on him. He's really one injury away from never playing football again, it seems, which I did not know about him. I really do not want Jalen Phillips. But Is there anyone else that you think a straight no?
Straight no for me as of right now. Talking about that DN position, I'm going to say the guy from Phillips running mate, Gregory, however you say his last name, the dude from Michigan, Kwity Paye, he's not going to be there. And unfortunately, I think this is probably your pick, but I don't think that he's here. Your guy from Georgia, Azeez Ojulari, I don't think he's there. I think a lot of these guys, once like the first DN is taken, they're going to fly off the board and they're just going to be gone. So it's going to be tough to justify taking a DN at 26 because he might not be the best player available. But as of right now, it stands that it is the biggest position of need in terms of what we were talking about with the whole analytics not being into the idea of drafting a linebacker, which, to just clarify, I think Jeremiah Owosu is like a hybrid between a linebacker and a safety.
Right. There's a couple of guys like that.
Yeah, and I think you can justify the pick there at linebacker. But, yeah, for me, DNs fly off the board here. So that's what I got. Do you want to tell me your pick and then I'll tell you mine? And we can talk about it. You can just say the name. We'll say names and then we'll get into it.
All right. Here's my theory. Here's my theory. I think if we stay at 26, we're gonna pick the best defensive end available.
I agree.
But I don't think that's what's gonna happen. I truly do think, however it gets done, I didn't work out the specifics, or if we think he's gonna be there at 26. And no, it's not Azeez Ojulari, but I think we move up and we snag J.C. Horn. I really do. I really think we do. I think we go and get that cornerback. He's a
really
stud, dude.
On that.
Dude, I love this guy. I watched 5 minutes of film from him. I love him. Azeez Ojulari, I watch highlights on him. I mean, he's good. He's great. I mean, I think he's that hybrid, another hybrid guy that kind of could do a lot of things. But I don't know. I think Joe Woods is really going to benefit from a stacked cornerback room compared to what he had last year. So I think we either move up to grab JC Horn or we're best available DN at 26. But I think Andrew Berry makes splash.
So this is probably one of the picks that I make and disagree with. In my head, I disagree with it because it doesn't make a ton of sense. But in my heart, it feels right. Okay. We're talking about best defensive end available. At this point, it's Jason Owe from Penn State, sophomore. The kid is super young. However, I watched his tape. He is very fast off the edge. He is a very fast player off the edge. I really like him coming off the edge. However, I don't know that he plays DN. I think he plays the hybrid of a DN / outside linebacker like Olivier Vernon did early on in his career, and also like a guy that I wanted this offseason, Hassan Reddick. I think the pick here is Jason Owe. In my mind, I'm hoping that even if the Jadeveon Clowney move happens, this just allows for him to develop a year. But it's hard to make the argument that you need to draft an edge at that point. So
how about this? How about literally while you're talking, I get a text from a buddy. It's from Penn State's Pro Day. Jason Owe, unofficial 4.36 40-yard time.
I mean, the man's a freak. I mean, he is really athletically a freak. And I'm usually not like super enticed about those kind of things. I'm more of the I want production. He didn't have a lot of production last year. I don't think he had a sack last year, but this whole way COVID worked. His pressures, however, were through the roof. And the year before that was very good for him. We'll see. I think 26 is a tough spot to be sitting. But as long as the Baltimore Ravens do not jump you, maybe we jump the Pittsburgh Steelers and we take a guy that they might want, which would be, a complete just like poetic flip of the book for, what has been going on with the Browns this offseason for the past year. And with what's happening with the Pittsburgh Steelers imploding, it would just be a complete role reversal and a sign of the times. So, but for me, Jason Owe, I think there's a lot of potential there, but it's not the best pick available, unfortunately. It's hard for me to really get into this. This is why this is 1.0, obviously. Hopefully we'll know more in the weeks coming hopefully Jadeveon Clowney decides not to hold us hostage for up to the draft. So that'd be crazy, but we'll see what happens there. But I think I like your idea. I'm not sold on Horn as much, and I'm definitely not sold enough to make that trade up for him. But I like your enthusiasm and the fact that you have a guy picked out like that. So, but I have us and Andrew Berry in the mindset of we're gonna just take whoever's there at 26.
Right. I think we have a similar theme along those lines, but I did some investigative reporting last night because I go to school with someone who probably the biggest college football fan I know, not from the Pittsburgh area, but from the Penn State area, big Penn State guy. And I was texting him, talking over, and he texted me and he said, take Jason Oweh, 0 sack looking ass. I don't know if he meant to be I think he was being sarcastic, but I think we had a pretty good discussion. I think that everyone agrees, even if you're not a football fan, that 26, the Browns are just in a tough spot right there. They really are. It's better than being, the worst team in the league and being number one. Obviously, we're not really complaining about it because it is a first round pick. I think we have options. And I think at the end of the day, you just cannot be upset with what happens outside of like blowing up the ship to move up to like grab Parsons. I think that would be a polarizing move, especially if Odell's involved some way, shape, or form. But if we stay at 26 or even move up like 5 or 6, 7 picks, I honestly do not think you could discredit Andrew Berry at this point. Andrew Berry is going to Andrew Berry, and I think most of the fans are going to enjoy it.
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I know it's not, in 1.0, but I could very much see the draft pool getting depleted, and Andrew Berry, I think Dion, as of right now, is the set target. If he sees someone that slips to 20, I think I could see him moving up 6 spots to get a DN. However, I could also see him waiting all the way to pick 26, and if all the DNs are gone, I could see him trading back and getting a surplus of picks in the second, third rounds, and letting some other team, move up for cornerback, whatever it may be, wide receiver. So
the biggest upside is options.
Yep.
That's a lot. I feel like a lot of teams cannot say that. And there's argument both sides where, okay, if you know what you need, then that makes it easy. But if you know what you need and draft someone who sucks, I mean, have fun with that. If he's not very good or you put him in a bad situation or he's just not in a good system, there's so many things that could go wrong there. While we have options and you could say, oh, you might be able to mess it up because you just have so many things to choose from. I just think the way Andrew Berry operates, give him a million choices. I think he's going to make something in the top, 10 percentile majority of the time he has so far, it seems like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that is our 1.0 Jeff and Justin mock draft. So you got to let us know what you thought of the first 10 picks. If you want us to do the whole first round, and also what you guys are thinking for, us doing the whole 7-round mock draft, it will be simulated. So every team will have their picks be simulated by a computer, and then Jeff and I will deliberate between ourselves what picks should be made in the next one. But for this, Jeff, you got anything else before we sign off?
Nope. Just throw stuff in the comments. Maybe we're gonna come with something special, either for episode 45, if this gets well received, or definitely 50. We're gonna come with something special, and Absolutely. It's gonna be interactive and fun. So stay on the lookout. Drop us a sub.
Well, yeah, let us know who you want at 26, and leave it down in the comments. We'll absolutely talk to you guys about it, and even do some more research into specific players if you guys have names. So, but without further ado, make sure you guys subscribe, like, comment, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.